Welcome back, everyone. This PowerPoint can be used to introduce the big initiative that we're trying this year from grades 5 to grades 12, which is what happens what if the entire TVT or entire middle school and upper school plus fifth grade studies the same bit of Torah. And again, our goal is that each and every week, starting with week number 2, we will be either studying one pasuk or two pasukim a week, according to the kind of shita system that I'm setting out before you today, and we'll kind of see what happens by that joint kind of conversation of everyone on the same Torah page. Also, teaching kind of kids the skills of looking closely at a text and how we find, questions and how we look at and appreciate certain answers as well. So I put together this PowerPoint because I imagine you will have people in your class that don't even know what the Torah is, that are kind of are new to the enterprise of TVT Jewish Studies for the first time, and this might help. So you can go quickly or slowly depending upon the population that you have in front of you, but it will help get everyone on the same page as to kind of what we're doing. And I would recommend that you do this during week 1 of school, as since week 2 of school will be our first week of doing a pasuk. And we'll start out even our first weeks with just one pasuk a week. And that will allow like our middle school who are going on trips that they can kind of do 2 pasukim on the week that they return. And it'll allow our 5th grade to do enough intro to to kind of stay on the same page, because what we really want to do is create this kind of same pagedness that we're all studying the same thing. To make it easier, I know that there are many ways that we introduce our class, with a Jewish word of the day, with dedications, with the Torah prayer as well. One thing that you should know is, on the day when you're doing your pasuk or pasukim of the day, you do not need to do any other introduction at all if you want to use this as your warm-up activity. Alternatively, you might want to use this as your middle activity during the day, an activity that kind of break up a certain units as well. But you will be getting a video of me each week, kind of going through before the 1 week in advance, going through the psukim of the next week, and I'll have a slide deck that you can kind of use as well. What you'll need to figure out as a teacher is, if you want to hand out a sheet to them, and I'll give you some options for that. All right, so here we go. So again, I'll be sending you this slide deck, but this is just for you to kind of show you how I might go through a very quick introduction of the Torah. So what's the Torah and why do we study it at TVT? Here's the Torah all dressed up. Here it is in a special kind of home, the Ark. And if they want at some point to come visit a Torah, we have one in the Beit Midrash where I'm sitting now. Here's an unrolled Torah. Here's a person reading from the Torah, and they're not touching it with their hand, but with the yad. A very brief history of the Torah, and I call it kind of the story of one God and the world that God created. And I kind of start by saying God is like a person, is like this person up here who creates the world, and is then kind of looking for someone to take the Torah that God has created. God finds Abraham, and Abraham says, yes, I'm willing to listen to you, God. Of course, this doesn't preclude the possibility that God also went to other people as well, asking if they might take the Torah. And of course, we know even before Abraham that God goes to the entire humanity and really kind of wants the entire humanity to take the Torah. That for some reason doesn't work. And then God goes to a much narrower group of people, a family. So Abraham kind of walks with God, and they kind of have a connection, a covenant, an agreement to kind of you do for me, I do for you, and that group of people gets bigger, and eventually that group of people finds their way down in Egypt, where they become slaves because Pharaoh is angry is worried about them. And then of course Moses frees them from slavery. So you've got all these Jewish people, all these Israelite people, Jewish people, coming out of Egypt at the same time, and then 3 months later they get the Torah from Mount Sinai. And in that Torah we have a history. We have history of kind of what happened before, and then we also have a kind of rules for living a life that God wants us to live, and rules for how to act, and rules how to say thank you. So then, of course, they travel for 40 more years until they get to Israel. And of course, the Torah has 5 books within it. There's a Torah picture of a Torah unrolled. these are the books of the Torah and what's in each book. Those are the kind of a short description of that. And then we kind of say Torah as a metaphor, right? How is Torah like a parent, a mirror, a compass? And what else is the Torah like? And this is a good place for discussion of like what the Torah is supposed to do for us. And then we kind of have a what have been the famous stories of the Torah that you may have studied at TVT elsewhere. This is an opportunity to go through them very quickly, have people raise their hand, maybe tell that part of the story if you want. And we kind of have the 22 essential Torah stories. And as you see, kind of we go through, and the little arrow kind of shows that, like, it should be kind of moving along as we go. Right, here we go. We're moving kind of through the stories. Some of these I took from our, some of them are longer summaries than other, but again, this is just to kind of quickly jump in on kind of what are the different kind of stories within the Torah. And then we get to this piece called how do Jewish people study Torah? And then we kind of introduce Rashi, and and how Rashi finds certain problems. I introduce here 4 of Rashi's 5 kind of major problems. The one I don't introduce are kind of meaning, like meaning and grammar. But I introduce 4 kind of, and the way I do it is I introduce it with an example from, that might hit closer to home for them. And they have to figure out what the problem is. Then I have Rashi kind of giving the answer to that, what's kasher. And then I always give a dugma from the Torah using that same type of problem. And then I give Rashi's answer, and then we kind of name that. So the first one we're calling Rashi strange behavior, right? Second one, same thing. And this beside that. Next one, kind of dugma from the Torah again, same thing, contradiction. Next one, and so you'll be able to go through this with the kids, and I think they might have a fun time with it. And then we get to the background of what we're going to. I mean, and why those, the challenge will be, or the kind of, that hopefully they'll be inspired by the way that Rashi kind of looks at problems and say, oh, that's a way I can look at these. I can look at the Torah as well. So we have our background to our Torah study this year, because we're right in Parsha Shemot, the story of slavery. So here's a little kind of a little review that you can read, or you can tell, or you can have them read for you. And then this is really what we're studying, burning bush, this year. Here's some review questions that Karina made up for us to just make sure, again, everyone's on the same page. And you'll always have highlighted kind of the psukim that we're going to be studying. And here there. So actually, there's just one of these right now. Vatahar Ha'isha. I see this is not completely in the right order. This is backwards, but we'll get it the right way. Then we first kind of just show them the Hebrew. If you want, someone could read that in class in the more advanced classes and try their best translating it, or you can just go right to the English. And I try to do a word for word kind of translation. And oftentimes, right, the comments that are made are based upon a very direct translation. So, here I've taken a little bit of liberty that, she saw him that he was good. I mean, you could say key might be because here, but I translated it as that. But okay, so then basically the first text is getting curious. So this is where we kind of ask the kids ask questions about the psukim, what's puzzling about this pasuk. Now, by the way, this can be something that if you'd like, you can print this out and you can have the kids kind of take a few moments and actually get curious. I have another sheet that I'm going to show you a little bit later that has that you can kind of do this entire lesson by giving out a sheet as well. And that's going to be up to you whether you want to do that. If you do want to do it that way, it probably ends up taking more time, or you can just have this on the board. And when people kind of have questions, you can write it in the spots. And then I bring up as many questions that I can find about the pasuk from just our traditional commentators. And then you can kind of go over this, and the idea is, were any of these your questions? So it's kind of like maybe they would get a point if they got those questions. And then anyone want to offer an answer to one of these questions, you can take someone from the, I want to talk about 5. I want to talk about 1. Obviously, this can go on forever, so you have to really be conscious of time. And then here are some answers from some famous Meforshim. Now, technically, you don't really even have to go further than than figuring out questions and who wants to answer. Anyone want to offer like and does anyone want to offer an answer to those questions? That's pretty good. But then I'll always have maybe one or two of the famous Meforshim offer an answer to that question. So it's something that you can look at. Maybe you want to look at just one of those. And then, but if you look at all of them, I have this kind of take a vote commentator I like most is. And then kind of a final opportunity. What's the nafkamina? Nafkamina means what is my takeaway? Like what's my mush? What's the nimsh? What's the nimsho? What's the kind of takeaway or idea that like a major message? So nafkamina is just Aramaic for like what's my takeaway, and then that's if there is a larger takeaway, and then if you wanted to use this sheet right here, it'll be on the Google slide deck where someone could kind of they could do the getting curious part. They could do one of a question that they really liked from the ones listed. They could give an answer from one of the Mefarshim, and then kind of a nafkamina. So this would be a way if you felt like, oh, each week I want to give this out. Maybe I want to, I want to collect this, or I want to have them as well. Maybe I want to make a booklet with a whole bunch of these, and keep this blank, so they have actually kind of a little booklet they use for like the 30 times they're going to be engaged in this during the year. Good, and that's it. So again, so this is kind of the way the goal of this video was to give you kind of a way to introduce the whole kind of way of studying. So obviously, the first week is only up to here, um, and then kind of week number 2 of school will be actually kind of starting kind of looking at one pasuk, and then we'll move forward. Great. I'll talk a little bit about this more during our Jewish studies meeting, but I wanted to make sure that you all had this to review beforehand. Thank you.